the sports teams that exist. Certain countries have a big one or two, but we're proud to say our podcast is about the biggest team in the entire world.
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah! This is the World's Team Podcast. All about the world's team, the Dallas Cowboys, baby. We're here to redefine what it means to be a fan of the gridiron game. It's not just America's team anymore. Nope. We're taking that star-studded pride and spreading it across the globe. Each week, we dive into all things Cowboys. From game analysis that'll have you on the edge of your seat, to reactions and all the latest news. Whether it's free agency frenzy, draft day drama, or injury reports that make us want to hug our lucky jerseys a little tighter. We're bringing in fan groups from all over the place, from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. Everybody gets to share their 2 cents on America's favorite team.
Here we go!
America's team, Mexico's team, world's team, my Dallas Cowboys.
And now your hosts, Paul Stewart and Mike Holland.
And hello, welcome to another episode of The World's Team. Remember, it's not just America's team, it is the world's team. I am your host, Paul Stewart, and I am joined, as always, by Mr. Mike Holland. How are we doing, brother?
Yeah, all good. We're getting inching closer to draft day, and I'm all about the draft, so I'm extremely excited.
Absolutely. And yes, remember last week, ladies and gentlemen, when we said we had a special guest? We do. We have no other than Mr. Mickey Spagnola. What's happening, man? How we doing?
Boy, you guys have upgraded your game here.
We had to.
Yeah.
The world's team. I like it.
Yeah.
Hopefully Steven doesn't make any merch from it. I want commission on it.
Yeah. But
you didn't say America's team, so no one's coined the world's team that I know of.
No. We did say it to him before when we said it. Do you remember Paul, and his eyes lit up? He went, ooh. And we were like, no.
Yeah. I was like, commission.
Yeah.
Give me 5%.
But it's been a long time since we've spoken to you, Mickey. We always miss talking to you, and we need to find out because we know that after the draft you go for your skiing trip. So we got to get you before you go tumbling down the hill.
Yes, absolutely. We're kind of in a holding pattern right now, getting ready for the off-season workouts to start on Monday, and then the draft. A week and a half after that. Things are picking up here, and then they'll start their OTAs and mini camp, and before you know it, it'll be third week in July, and we'll be heading to Oxnard, California.
Awesome. I mean, I suppose we would just kick off the show. Obviously the Cowboys have been very busy in free agency right now. So give us your thoughts, Mickey, about the acquisitions the Cowboys have brought in so far.
Yeah, I think what they've done, they've I think by last account, signed 11 free agents. I think 6 of their own, a couple of restricted guys, a couple exclusive rights guys. And what they were trying to do is try to plug some holes where they felt like there was a lack of depth on this roster, so they don't get into the draft and say, I got to have this or I got to have that. And you can have more of a pure draft and say, okay, that's a really good player there, and I probably got a need for him somewhere. But anytime someone can play, especially at number 12, you got to take that guy. Yeah, you can't turn your nose up and say, you know what? He's a defensive tackle. I need a running back. Or he's a linebacker. I need a defensive end. So I think they did a nice job there. Now, I don't know that they totally solved any problems at those positions. As Stephen Jones put it, they were kind of selectively aggressive. I think Solomon Thomas is a good pickup.
Yeah.
They picked up a couple running backs that you can live with, but I don't think that precludes anything they do in the draft on the first or second day. Picked up another quarterback in a trade, but again, while I see a lot of people saying, well, the Cowboys traded for their backup quarterback, well, let's tap the brakes there. This guy's got one game of NFL experience in his first year in the league. He was only a 6th-round pick. So to me, the day tomorrow something happens, forbid to Dak Prescott, this guy is not going to go in with a whole lot of experience and be able to hold down the fort. So I think the backup quarterback position is still probably open to sign a veteran guy, or at least bring in a veteran guy to compete with these young guys for the backup spot. But for the most part, at least they brought in somebody to help out at cornerback, at defensive tackle recently. Two guys as guards. Wide receiver with speed, but that doesn't preclude, taking a wide receiver in the first round at number 12. Same thing with the cornerback position. It's a team with a lot of needs, but at least they've got some placeholders just in case you don't address some of those needs in the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with you. Like, I kind of feel as though, and Mike, feel free to jump in on this as well. Like, I tend to feel like with the players that we brought in, like Jack Sanborn, like I think that's a great acquisition. Fits the Elbifus like scheme. Obviously, worked with him back in Chicago. Like, how much involvement does he have? Like going into the season, all the other guys as well. Like you're saying there, Mickey, I think they're there to like add depth to this team more than anything. Like you're not going to expect them to lit up the world per se, you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of what they did, it was low risk for high reward. Bringing in some guys that have not lived up to their draft status, maybe in the first or second round, and giving them another chance. Maybe you change environments and something goes off, and you go,
It
okay, I get
happens. Yeah,
this.
yeah.
But it's not like they financially said, okay, got to have this. Now, I thought the two positions they did it was Solomon Thomas and then Kenneth Murray at linebacker.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
we found probably two starters there. The other guys, um, like I said, you're going to get a chance, but when you're signing a lot of these guys to just 1-year deals, and a lot of them veteran minimums, and some of them the veteran minimum exception, where they cost less against the salary cap, then you're not saying, okay, that guy's starting. And I continue to see where everybody thinks, well, they got to sign this expensive player or that expensive player, but what they don't understand is the salary cap's real. And when you've got the highest paid quarterback, the second highest paid wide receiver, and depending on where Micah Parsons' deal goes, you could have the most expensive defensive player out there. And then you've got to be able to have money left over for the other positions, right? And the way I looked at it, there wasn't one person in free agency that was going to turn this team totally around from, say, 7-10 to 11-6. So I think they were judicious on what they did, and now basically they're banking on hitting home runs in the draft at least the first 2 days.
yeah. I totally agree with you. And we've seen so, especially me and Mike, we've been doing mock drafts left, right, and center, and we're kind of like open discussion. Is it going to be wide receiver? Is it going to be running back? We might even go defense, depending how the board goes. Like we're at that position where like we're not actually entirely too sure what direction Jerry and Steven might go. But again, it depends what the first 11 picks go. Like,
Yeah, and I think you guys are thinking right. I was just talking with Nate Newton yesterday, and I was saying, what are you going to talk about on your podcast today? And he said, well, I don't know, but we seem to have arguments on it's got to be this position or that position. And he goes, they've got so many needs. I can't argue for just one position that it's got to be this.
Yeah.
I think you look at it and say, okay, let's see how the draft is unfolding. And when we get to 12, let's see what position has the blinking light on it, the way Jason Garrett used to explain it, and then go from there. Because cornerback, what do they got there?
Exactly.
There's no guarantee Trayvon Diggs is ready to start this season. And there's a good chance he's going to start on PUP. The other guy that kind of stood out a little bit last year, the free agent, Josh Butler.
Yeah, Josh Butler.
Or his ACL. He's not going to be there. They lose
Jordan Lewis.
Yeah. So you got Deron Bland and what? Okay, they traded for career Elam, but he started like 12 of 29 games he played over 2 years or 3 years with Buffalo. That's no guarantee. So if they take a corner at number 12, I don't think you can argue. Say, what are you doing? You got to take a running back.
Yeah.
What I wrote yesterday or Wednesday on DallasCowboys.com, sometimes what dictates what position you take in the first round is depth. You go for the position that has the least amount of depth, and then knowing that there's more depth at that other position of need in the second and third round.
Exactly.
So that always factors into it too. So yeah, you guys are right. You can't
supply and
sit there
demand.
And say, got to have a running back, right? Well, okay. Well, what if there's some second round running backs that you feel like you graded out pretty high, and I can take a position that there's not as many corners maybe in the draft as their running back, so maybe I got to take the corner, or maybe I got to take the wide receiver because there's another position. Who's your number 2 wide receiver? I understand that Colbert led the team in touchdowns last year, but is he really the number 2 guy that's going to take pressure off CeeDee Lamb, who, by the way, is coming off a season-ending injury himself? So there's no guarantee there. So again, I think you got to look at the depth at some of these positions to decide maybe which guy you take, unless somebody, as I said, has got that blinking light, like what was it in 2014 when they got to number 16 and they were trying to get a defensive player all along, and the 3 guys they wanted went all off the board from 9 to 15, and it's like, okay, we'll settle for Zach Martin, right? So sometimes things like that, you got to be quick on your feet to make a decision. Now, I was just writing for today on DallasCowboys.com, how they ended up with Emmitt Smith. Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones were just adamant they wanted the linebacker James Francis from Baylor, and they tried 3 different ways to get him, and nothing worked. And then it was like, well, maybe we take a running back, and they ended up with Emmitt Smith. So sometimes you got to adjust what your thinking is, just kind of how the draft plays out, because you can't predict, a little easier to predict when you're at 12 what the other teams are going to do, but there's no sure thing. Like what happened in 21 with Micah Parsons. When they got to 10, it was like, okay, and CeeDee Lamb fell in their lap right at 17. They didn't think that was going to happen. They were, looking at cornerbacks, and same thing with the Parsons draft, 9, 8, and 9. They were sitting there going, those are 2 corners. That didn't work out. And then the best defensive player in the draft was sitting there at 10. And they were able to trade down, pick up a 3rd, and still get Parsons at 12. So, again, you got to be flexible. You got to look at a lot of different factors before you make that pick at number 12.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Mickey. And you just kind of mentioned like Diggs and injuries there. So I suppose, are you able to give us an update for the likes of Sam Williams, Overshawn, obviously Diggs, and obviously how Dak is doing in terms of how he's coming along.
Yeah, I think Sam Williams and Dak are probably of that group doing the best. Sam
Nice.
Williams' injury, the torn ACL, happened in what was it, the end of July, beginning of August, right?
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
right.
he
Yeah,
had his surgery right away till they got back from training camp. But from what I've seen of him working out, he looks good. Dak had been on the resistant cords, but the other day I saw him out there, no resisting cords, but doing the same field work, rehab exercises that he was doing with the cords. So that's a step in the right direction. But they're not going to have him take place. He may do some secondary throwing or whatever. And that's one of the reasons why, they ended up trading for Joe Milton. They needed another arm here because once they're
yeah,
allowed to do
exactly.
some workouts, the only quarterback that was probably going to take place was Will Greer. So again, those two guys look good. I can't give you an update on Diggs. I haven't seen him. So I'm not sure where he is, but it was a pretty serious uh, surgery that he had to try to pack some hopeful cartilage back into his knee. And those things are never 100%. So I think there's a good
Especially when he's
chance
had a
that,
knee injury already as
yes, and
well.
coming off the ACL the year
Mm.
before, right? So yeah, there's a good chance uh, he could start off on PUP, and I'm pretty sure DeMarvion Overshone definitely will, because I don't think he's close at all right now. But again, what is he, 3.5 months
Yeah.
removed from his surgery? Those things take time, and especially now this is the second ACL, so
Yeah.
one on each side.
Mm.
He definitely will start training camp on physically unable to perform, and chances are probably start the season and at least miss the first 4 games, if not the
Yeah.
first half of the season. So I know he's very positive and he thinks, oh yeah, I'm coming back and this and that, but
Mm.
he's got a ways to go.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the thing is like with Overshown, it might be like you say. I said about halfway through the season, but just because you're medically cleared to play doesn't mean that you're physically able to play a game in the
Or
NFL. So
mentally too, right, guys?
mentally, yeah, you've got to
Yeah.
like with Terrence Steele. Remember when Terrence Steele he spent that time like unsure if he could put weight on it and he could shift and he could balance. You think, oh, linebacker even more, especially the type of linebacker Overshown is as well. That speedy, missile man type off ball linebacker.
Right.
He's
And you
There's a lot
mentioned
of movement on that
Steele.
knee.
Yeah, you mentioned Steele, and I'm not sure he was completely,
I agree.
back to
Yeah.
himself even this last year, even though it was 2 years removed from his torn
Yeah.
ACL. So yeah, and we mentioned all these other positions. Well, okay, offensive line. I think one of the questions they've got to answer is do they trust guys that they have to fill in for Zach Martin? So can Hoffman, do they trust him to
That's what I
start
was going to ask
17
you. Yeah.
games? Now,
Mm.
Brian Schottenheimer said that I wouldn't bet against Brock Hoffman, and I thought he played well.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
again, now you
Mm.
got to have some depth, and I think that's what they did just in case, bringing in those two free agent guards. The
Yeah.
last one, Shadrick,
Charles.
right?
Shadiq Charles. Yeah.
Is that how I said it? That's the first time I mentioned his first name, so I'm
No, you
not
got it. You
sure
got it, Mickey. You got it. You
I
got it.
got it right. So yeah, and then the other question they've got to answer is, okay, so say you're sticking with Tyler Guyton at left tackle. Well, who's the backup swing tackle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you trust Awesome Richards? Because with the other guys they drafted previously, I don't know that either of those guys are capable of doing it. So yeah, they drafting another offensive lineman, not out of the question
Makes
on
sense.
the
Yeah.
first 3 rounds. And as my Colleague Nate Newton says we should always draft an offensive lineman in the first 2 days of the draft. So,
Agreed.
and and part of the problem early last year was Dak Prescott getting hit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he eventually
And
got
not
hurt.
getting push on run.
Right. So,
Yeah.
in the same thing with, Schottenheimer talking about how he, one of his, I think, offensive staples is running the ball. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. You may want to. Now, can you? And
Mm.
it's not always the running back. Sometimes it's the offensive lineman.
I totally agree with you, Mickey. Because
So, see where we're going here is they got a lot of questions to answer. And
Yeah.
you can't get them all answered in the draft. You're going to have some young guys step up and be able to play.
I will
Yeah.
say this. Paul will agree to this. We did a mock draft yesterday. We managed to get an absolute haul because we traded back twice in the first round. So maybe they could do that.
But
Yeah,
you kept picking up draft choices, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember what it was. So we were 12 overall. We traded with Indianapolis. We picked up an extra third and a fourth. Then we
Yeah.
traded 14th with 17th with the Bengals. Then picked up an additional third and fourth. So, and what we did when we got to the second round, we used those 2 third rounders that we picked up to move back into the
That's right.
second.
Very good. So yeah, I mean that could be, you get to 12 and you got 3 guys you wouldn't mind having.
Options.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
trade back, and you're kind of assured of getting probably one of them.
I just want
You
that fourth
don't
round
want to
pick
get
back.
too cute because when I did my kind of historical draft study, when they've drafted between 1 and 17, they've hit. And we can go all the way back to the first pick they ever took at 13, Bob Lilly in 1961, right?
There you go.
You guys weren't even a gleam in your
No,
parents'
but I know
eye.
I know the history. I know
Yeah.
that.
And you know what? And that was the second to last pick in the first round back then at 13. So, but they've done well when they've drafted high. When it gets past like 18, then it
Yeah.
becomes a crapshoot, right? Because normally 18 to 32, you're drafting a second round player. I think
Yeah.
the average, what I'm told, with players with first round grades is somewhere between 14 and 17, 18 at the most, right? And then after that, they're second round grades. But everybody looks at them, oh, you drafted him in the first round and he's a bust. Well, a lot of first round picks that late don't become players like that exhibit first round talent because they're second round players. So again, just to me, don't move too far back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
Like,
the thing. Sorry, mate. That's one thing
yeah,
about the NFL draft is, and we see this with other teams in particular, especially with the quarterback position. You may draft the best quarterback to come out of college, number 1 overall, but it never works out. It could be a scheme thing. It could be scheme related. It could be coaching related. Even though the talent's already there. I mean, take Bryce Young for example for
Yes,
Carolina.
exactly.
Like talented quarterback, but he's in a really dire situation in Carolina. So, but when you look at other quarterbacks that had similar situations, like Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, maybe not Jared Goff, but Baker Mayfield, terrible time at Cleveland, transformed his career, and now he's doing amazing in Tampa Bay, like because he's got the right tools around him and the right coaching staff.
And
So,
maybe we find out more about Justin Fields if he's able to get
yeah,
on
that.
the field now,
yeah.
because he was in a
Yeah.
terrible situation with Chicago.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was him and really nobody else, right? He didn't have any talent around him. Didn't have any blocking. Yeah, you mentioned Bryce Young. He landed in a terrible position. But again, the reason those teams are drafting that high is number one, they don't have a quarterback, and number two, that's probably why they're not very good to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, I was just going to go off because it was something I've stated before as well on Twitter, and I said, Dallas Cowboys pick number 12. It hasn't historically been a bad place. Micah Parsons, Danny Noonan, Alvin Harper, all guys they picked, was pick number 12.
And and if you look at the range, number 11 ended up being DeMarcus Ware and Michael Irvin.
Michael Irvin, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So,
So it's a nice place to go. Hall of Fame spot.
Yeah. Yeah, and they did. And the funny thing is, they've never picked 14 or 15. And then you go to 16 and you find Zach Martin. You go to
Zach Martin,
17, you find CeeDee Lamb and
Mm.
some guy named Emmett Smith,
yeah.
who was an
Yeah.
afterthought in the first round.
There you go. That's
Sorry,
crazy.
I've got like a moth flying
So,
around
by
in
the
my
way,
face.
maybe I missed it.
Ah,
What did you guys? Who did you end up taking at 17 when you traded back twice?
We took
oh,
Luther Burden the third, the wide receiver from Missouri.
Oh, Luther.
Yeah.
yeah,
People are going to sleep on him. And
Yeah.
I think
you
so
guys
too.
know I'm a Missouri grab, so I watched, for 2 years almost every one of his games. And what happened was, and no one's factoring this in when I see these mock drafts, the fact that Missouri lost their starting quarterback for 4 games, and
Yeah.
2 other ones he didn't finish. So they had to change how they were running their offense because the backup quarterback was awful, just
Yeah.
awful, right? And they couldn't get the ball down the field. He couldn't read, so they decided, okay, Luther, you're in the slot. We're going to run short stuff to you. Get the ball in your hands. And as I heard Drinkowitz, the Missouri head coach, say the other day, and he's biased, right? But he said Luther Burden will be the best player in the draft with the ball in his hands. And that's one of
As
the
a
things you want
playmaker.
to do with
Yeah.
him, because once he gets the ball, he makes plays. And I
Yeah.
think people have gone to sleep on him. But yeah,
I
I
think
got
so
no
too.
argument with a wide receiver. I went to the UT Pro Day and
Oh,
totally
nice.
impressed with Matthew Golden, excuse
Yeah.
me. And boy, and they had him in for a visit. So even if they took him at 12, I got no problem with that, because I don't
Same.
know. I have a number 2 receiver, and I know for sure, damn well they don't have somebody that's going to run a 4.29 40 as he did at the combine.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing: like when we talk about like these players like Luther Bird and Matthew Golden, even the Marion Hampton, the running back,
Yes.
like the thing is, it's like, oh, you're reaching to get these players at 12. It's as well, not necessarily, because when you really think about it, if we don't pick these guys, they're not going to be there in the second round. So
Yeah,
you're
they're
going
not
to
going to be there at 44, right?
Exactly. I thought I might just mention to you as well, like, so you were just asking who we picked at number 17, but I'll mention who we also picked in the second round, just to kind of sparkle some interest here. So on pick number 44, we unanimously went for Trey Amos, the cornerback from Ole Miss, Mississippi.
And I
And
got no problems with that, because that position
God,
needs
for
to
me,
be.
I think cornerback is one of the biggest needs.
Yeah.
I've said the same sentiments you have. Diggs at the moment is bland, and all right, maybe we'll try and push Israel Mukwamu back out there.
yeah, and our other second round pick we
We
got.
ain't doing that.
I know exactly.
Our other second round pick, we picked up Trevion Henderson, the running back from Ohio State. At
Yes,
50,
and you know what? To me, after watching Ohio State play towards the end of the season in the playoffs, either one of those running backs, Judkins, don't go to sleep on him.
Oh yeah,
I
actually prefer Judkins personally, but I'm happy with either or. Like,
Yeah.
they're absolute units of
And
running
I
backs.
loved your guys' interview at the combine. They were talking to him because, remember, Judkins, he transferred to Ohio State from Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And somebody asked him, so were you a little worried that they brought in a guy in the portal and you were there? He said, hey, come on and compete. I'm a competitor. Yeah. I'm not going to back down just because they, maybe paid this guy more money than I'm getting paid. And so I like hearing that from a guy like that. And I was like, okay, I wouldn't mind having either one of them on my team.
Yeah, it's that type. It's definitely that pure football mentality rather than thinking about, oh, how much am I going to get paid? I'd rather have someone that wants to go in there and actually be the best, like out of their whole ability.
Oh, I just saw something today, or heard they were talking about it on radio. The Tennessee quarterback, he wants more money.
Sampson.
He wants.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
Or I'm going to transfer, and it's like, okay, that's what we've come to.
As in the Titans,
Yeah.
or
No,
the.
no, the Volunteers, college.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
he needs more
mm.
money. He wants four
NIL.
million. He wants
That's the
4 million
NIL
a year.
period
Yeah,
now. We're in the
yeah.
NIL era now, Mickey. We've all got to
Can't
adjust.
Crazy
can't put the
times.
genie back in the bottle. I'm sorry to
No,
say.
but that's it. Once it's out, but I think with the Ohio State running backs, if Dallas was to take either, when you talk about it, I think when you shut your eyes and you try and think of the offense, it's crazy that both of these running backs are extreme talent, but very, very different. And I think whoever the Cowboys take, if they were to take either one, dictates, I think, very much how the flow of the offense will go because they're two
Yeah,
very complete different running backs.
and you know what, and you're gonna use more than one. I think the
Oh
days
yeah,
of
yeah,
Emmett Smith having all those carries every year, 300-400 carries, those days are over.
that's
And
wild to see.
yeah, and so and I think that the two guys that they picked up, Williams, um,
And
and
Sanders.
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders, they both catch the ball pretty well out of the backfield. So you've got a third down back and a veteran that knows how to block on third downs.
Yeah, I think that's the missing piece when you mentioned about blocking there. If there was one thing we can always mention about Ezekiel Elliott, he was an amazing pass protector in terms of as of a running back.
Yep.
So
That's Ohio State running backs. That's what they're good at.
yeah, and that's something we did kind of lack last year. I felt personally. Don't get me wrong, Rico Dowdle still had a fantastic year,
He
but there
got
was
better, but yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. They didn't trust him the first half of the season.
yeah,
I don't know if
absolutely.
it's trust with him, but I wonder as well whether it was they were concerned about the efficiency of the offensive line as well, because the
And
offensive
that
line started to play a little better.
absolutely. I mean, think of what you were trying to do. You lose Zach Martin for a half a season, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
he played hurt the entire time. That
Yep.
ankle that needed surgery cropped up in training camp, and he tried to play
Mhm.
through it. So you're playing basically with half of Zach Martin. You've got a rookie starting at center who had never played center before, and you got
Yeah.
another rookie at left tackle who had only played 14 games in college at left tackle.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were kind of up against it. And Terrence
Sp-
Steele not playing to the level he was playing. So you had Tyler Smith and what? And a lot
Yeah.
of that problems running the ball was the offensive line. You're exactly right. How come you guys are so smart across the pond and these people over here don't see this
Just
stuff?
we listen to you so much, Mickey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it. That's it. That's
There
it.
you go, Luxy.
it's one
Straight
thing
in
to
there.
listen
Straight
to me; it's another thing to believe it. Right?
I,
in.
if there's one thing that I'm actually quite excited for is like, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, obviously, I would love to hear your take on the hire of Stuart Schottenheimer, but also the coaching staff he's assembled. I mean, me personally, I love the fact that we brought in Conor Riley, the offensive lineman coach from Kansas State, which
And then they
likes
doubled up with Clayton Adams, another
Clayton
offensive
Adams.
line coach.
exactly.
Right?
So I love the assembly he's brought to the offense, especially for
It's
the O
interesting.
line. It's very
I
interesting.
think people will warm up to Schottenheimer. At first, somebody mentioned it to me. I said, well, I don't think they're going to go that way. But again, do you want a, I don't know, 37-year-old, 38-year-old first time head coach that's only been in the league as a coordinator and never been a head coach anywhere? Or do you want a 51-year-old NFL experienced head coach as a first time head coach? And I think there's something to Schottenheimer's experience. Maybe he's not been a head coach, but he's been a coach. He's been a coach's son. He's grown up in that head coaching position, right?
Mhm.
And he's hungry. It's not like, oh, okay, we're dumping this. I think the more they thought about it, it's like, do I want a young guy that's never been a head coach and take that chance, or do I want an experienced coach that's got a lot of skins on the wall as an offensive coordinator? By the way, because
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you were going to have a first-time head coach, who's your offensive coordinator or who's his offensive coordinator? You got to be able to answer that question. So the fact that they don't have to change the offense dramatically,
Yeah.
I think
And
it's a step in the right direction.
I think the biggest advantage, I think, with Shotty though, is I mean, you mentioned the one thing, which is the the elk he comes from. That he's comes from from a long lineage of coaches. But also, like, the big thing I think for him is that he's not trying to get on the treadmill while it's already moving. He's already been in the Cowboys for a long time. He knows this team. And you know as well as most people that just because you're offensive coordinator doesn't mean you don't speak to the defensive players or the
Right.
defensive coaches, because they're
Yeah.
they're the guys who can tell you the most about your offense. So he knows this team already, and I think because he's hitting the ground running. And most of these guys who are coaches coming into teams, they've got to figure out what floor they're on. They've got to they got to find out where their office is.
You
Shotty's
guys
already halfway there.
will like this. So they were, because they had a new head coach, eligible to start their off-season program this past Monday.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Schottenheimer decided that we're going to start this coming Monday. I want another week with my staff. We've got to make sure as a
Smart move.
coaching staff we're ready to meet the players, right?
Mm.
And he thought that was more important than having the players all out here a week earlier. So I thought that was interesting that he understood that, the head coach has got to coach the coaches and make sure we're prepared in everything we want to do. Plus, continue to get ready for the draft, because this is the first time this staff obviously is going to be, preparing for this draft, the Cowboys draft. What did they just kept the tight end coach and the assistant
Yes.
offensive line coach, right?
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
my list up there. I think that was it. So everybody else is new.
Tight end for definite. Tight end was the same.
And
Yeah.
by the way, the tight end coach, Lunda Wells, was an offensive lineman, by the way. And
Yeah.
he first broke into the league with the Giants as an offensive line assistant. So there's another guy. So you see where they're going with this coaching staff. It's got an offensive line flair to it, and they understand that you better be good up front. And, when Zach Martin retired, I called Jason Garrett, and we were talking about Zach and everything. And, his point was, if you don't have a creditable offensive line, you'll never know if your quarterback, your running back, or wide receivers have talent. So you better start there. And he brought up his the old coach he always used to, Huffenagel or whatever the guy's name is. We can go all the way back to when he was the head coach back in 18 whatever, and it was like, you gotta have a strong offensive line. And if you look at it, it took him a couple years to build that Cowboys offensive line up, right?
Yeah.
The first thing they did in 2011, they drafted Tyron Smith. In 2013, they ended up with
Travis
Frederick.
Travis Frederick, right? And then in 2014, they doubled down and got Zach Martin. And all of a sudden, oh, look, we got a pretty good offense live. Oh, look, in 2014, Tony Romo had one of his best years, right?
100%.
And
Murray.
Has a record-setting, franchise record-high rushing numbers. Well,
beats O.J. Simpson's record.
Was that just a consequence or, inconsequential? No, there was something to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you just mentioned about, like, it all starts with the trenches and stuff like that for the offensive line. Again, looking back, like with Bryce Young and the wide receivers and the running backs for Carolina, they're in that, like, I'm surprised they might, like, if they don't go offensive line in this year's draft. I know this is we're kind of shifting away, focus on the Panthers all of a sudden, but it kind of relates to what you're saying. Like, if we don't enhance the O line on a more regular basis, I'd like adding more, because you can, like Nate Newton always says, you can never have enough offensive linemen. You can
And
never have
the other thing Jason pointed out was, did anybody watch the Super Bowl? The best quarterback in the NFL was negated. Why?
Yeah.
Okay, Philadelphia had a good defensive front, but that Kansas City offensive line was terrible. He was running for his life the whole game. And how did they lose their previous Super Bowl they lost? Well, the offensive line, right? They
Mhm.
were all injured. So again, that's got to be it's not sexy, not at
No,
all, but it's
no.
got to be a priority.
I
Yeah.
mean, we always say that the offensive line, like your team is the way I always the analogy is a team is like a house, and the house is only as good as the foundations it sits on. And for me, the offensive line is your foundation.
You got it. You guys you're right down the right path. I swear to God, you guys are good.
I re- that's the best compliment ever, man. Oh man, but let's kind of go talking more about the draft. So, where do you think, Mickey, the Cowboys are going to go in this direction with the 12th pick? Do you think we might trade back or stick at 12? And if so, what is the rumors or the talk where
Yeah.
we're heading?
And if you just kind of look at, I mean, um, running back, wide receiver, I think cornerback, and
Cornerback.
you can put those in any order I think you want. So just give me a good, and I hate saying the best player available. It's
Yeah,
always within
it's
reason.
within reason. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you just sit there and get one of those positions, it's going to help you. Now,
Yeah.
is it going to put you over the edge? No, probably not. But again, you've got 3 picks in the top 76, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so you should be able to hit. And the fact that you've got those extra, sevenths and fifths or whatever, you can use them to trade up a little bit in any of
Yeah.
these rounds to maybe get somebody that you got your eye on, right? So there's a lot of movement that they can create to get better play or the player they absolutely want.
And I'm glad that you mentioned about like fifth and sixth and seventh round. If that's one thing special with Will McClay, we've managed to hit some really good diamonds in the rough in the late rounds, like DeLon Brand, for example, and even undrafted free agents like Marquise Bell. Like we've managed to really discover some players that have actually been forgotten about by all of the other 31 other teams, and Dallas just snapped them up.
Wanye
Donovan
Thomas.
Wilson from
Yeah,
Texas
Wilson.
A&M.
Wanye Thomas, yeah, another great example,
And you're right,
100%.
Wilson, by the way. So,
The best one of
you
them all.
know, just to give you an example, everybody says, well, he's a 3rd-round pick. Well, Chauncey Golston turned into a guy that ended up with
Yeah.
a 3-year, $19.5 million
Yeah.
contract after 4 years. And he was just a
Last
3rd-round
season,
pick.
I thought he was good.
Overshown 3rd-round pick. So yeah, you got to hit with those guys, and they've done a pretty good job of that. So yeah, those extra look, they've got 10 draft choices still, right? 10 guys aren't going
Yes.
to make this team.
Yeah.
So you might as
Mhm.
well use those picks to get somebody maybe that you have your eye on, or to move up to get somebody you really want. So I think that's
Mhm.
still a possibility.
Yeah, so you definitely reckon there will be some trade action within this year's
Oh,
draft?
I'm sure there will, just because they're not going to bring in 10 new guys,
Yeah,
including all the free agents and the trades they
Wow.
did. Somebody's not making this team,
yeah.
You like your history, Mickey. Don't ever forget about the Dirty Dozen draft.
right? Which is 50 years ago,
That
right?
worked out. That
The
worked out all right
50th
for the
anniversary.
Cowboys.
As a matter of
The
fact, that's
Dirty
in our
Dozen.
draft.
So this
It's
is
in
what.
our draft
Okay.
magazine. If you guys have seen it, the Star Draft magazine, it's online now, so you should be able to get it. And
Oh,
Okay.
I did a piece on the 50th anniversary of that draft.
Oh
Uh,
wow. And I
and
bring it up.
and while they had, and they really had 13 guys make it. Uh, the linebacker was ineligible to play that first year that he made the team. But yeah, and then after that, 2 or 3 of them fell off after 1 year, but they
Yeah.
still brought in, the meat and potatoes of what happened in the late to mid to late 70s, early
Yeah.
80s. It was interesting going back, and I remember talking to Gil Brandt about it when they had the second pick in the draft, and they knew Atlanta was going to take the quarterback, Bartkowski, yeah, 75. And so their decision was Randy White or Walter Payton. And Gil told the story that the morning of the draft, they did a study on the longevity of a defensive lineman compared to a
Okay.
running back. And they had found out that the defensive lineman had longer careers than the running back.
That's very true.
And so
That's
they
it.
decided to go with Randy White
Interesting.
instead of Walter Payton. Somebody took an offensive lineman with the third pick, and then the Bears took Payton with the fourth pick. So either way, they wouldn't have gone wrong. But if they had taken
Yeah.
Payton, Tony Dorsett would have never been here.
I'm so glad that you mentioned Randy White. I've actually got a signed jersey on my wall of Randy White. So I'm so glad to meet. I love if that's one era I would love to go back in time is witness
Yeah.
him play. Like just watching the archive footage of when he was playing is like, oh man, I wish I was just like there to see that in person.
Yeah.
Like I wish I was like that
Scary,
generation.
What you
Yeah.
didn't want to see is after a game, Randy White's eyes, because he looked like he was a zombie. I swear to God.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Yeah. Literally going
Oh.
by the name then.
The man,
Yeah,
the man.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Go
monster.
for
He
the
looked like a
manster.
monster after the game for sure. Oh my goodness.
I do have a question though for you while we're talking on draft. Do you think, because we were talking about Schottenheimer as well, is Jerry going to give Schottenheimer a little bit of rope, or do you think he's just literally, it's like, listen, you're new to the scene, let us take the reins, you tell us kind of what you want, and let us try and find it for you? Or do you think he's going to
Okay,
give him a
so
bit of rope to play with?
the good thing is he's been here 3 years, so
Yeah.
he knows the deal, and they know
Mhm.
him. And what
Mhm.
I've found with Jerry, Stephen too, is they'll listen to a lot of people in that draft room. It's not like he's sitting there on this throne saying, "We're doing this," right? And if the head coach is willing to put his neck on the line and say, "This is what I want," or "This is who we should take," they will
Yeah.
give it serious consideration to the point of listening. But too many times, the head coach will just sit there and go, "Oh yeah, whatever you want," and then okay, then they don't listen to you. They listen to Jason Garrett. Believe me, they
Oh
listen.
yeah.
I think that Mike McCarthy did have a say in the draft, but he prepared himself, right? Wade Films was like, whatever you want to do, right? So again, when the head coach was willing to, put his stuff on the line, they listened to him. But too many times the head coach don't want to say anything because they don't want get blamed for anything if it doesn't work. It's almost like the blame is worse than the credit you might receive.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why when they do their draft meetings and they go position by positions, which I'm guessing they will start next week or this coming week, I should say, they record that stuff. They video it. So no one
Yeah.
can say, well, I didn't say that. And it's like, well, no, we got it right here. This is what your recommendation was. But yeah, he'll listen as long as you're willing to say and you know what you're talking about. He will listen. And basically, how many guys are in the draft? 200 and whatever get drafted.
256.
Yeah. He doesn't know
56,
all 256.
Mhm.
He's got other things he's doing. But he's got guys that will give him the information, and he's a really good listener. And he remembers stuff too really well. There's things that I've been with him since '89, right? And I could remember something that took place in '91, and he goes, "Oh, I can't believe you were doing that." And I was like, "The hell, this was like 2016, and you remember
Yeah.
'89? Are you kidding me?" So yeah, he's still pretty sharp at what 82, going on 83.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm really curious to know as well is like it's just like obviously is the discussion with Will McClay also a big influence in that discussion as well?
Oh yeah, Will's got pretty much say in there, and that's why they keep him around, and they sort of financially bend over backwards to keep him here, because I mean, uh, the success he has, and he's a black man, he's in big demand. I guarantee you that.
It's
And
okay.
I
I
think,
feel I had a hand in keeping Will McClay here. I
okay,
messaged him
very
and I
good.
said,
You did your
if
part,
it,
right?
yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. Yeah, the money and what I told him. I said, if you leave Dallas, I'm not being friends with you anymore. So I feel like it's a little bit of column B, you know?
And I think what people forget about Will, not only did he play it in college, right?
Mhm.
He was a scout before he started in the Arena League,
Yeah,
and then he became a coach. So he knows how to look for players. Last year, and this is, stop me if I start telling you guys too many stories, but
you go,
uh,
man.
they were taping the Mike McCarthy show, and I was in there, and every week Bill Jones does a segment with Will McClay, and Will comes in with some player from the team that they're going to play, and he kind of has a film study, and they do it on the big board, okay,
Yeah.
and he was showing, um, I think it was Saquon Barkley on the different runs they do. And at one point he said, well, okay, so he's lined up here. This run is going to go this way because the linebacker is going to know. And so when he got done, I said, well, how do you know all that? How do you predict it? He goes, well, it's pretty simple. If the running back is lined up next to the quarterback to the right, he's not going to cross the quarterback's face and go left with a handoff. It's going to go to the right. So the linebacker automatically takes a step in that direction because he knows it's impossible to do it the other way when you're in shotgun, right? And,
Hmm.
and I said, so what happens if he's lined up like in an I formation behind him in shotgun? He goes, then he can go either way. So you can't cheat if you're a linebacker, right? So I started watching games and I saw that and I'm going, okay, I know which way this is going if it's a handoff. And
Hmm.
sure enough, he was right. So he's pretty sharp. He's not just a scout. He'd be a pretty darn, and he was basically in the Arena League, the defensive coordinator before he became the head coach after Joe Arizano moved on to the Raiders.
I've got a good one for you in terms of I formation, how to make a read on that. And you will think, why is a person from Scotland telling me this? So, so just watch where the hips turn on the quarterback. That's your tell,
Right?
because that's your tell right there. Like if the quarterback is turning to the right, then obviously the running back's going to receive the ball on the right hand side, and it's going to go more either in the A gap or B gap on the right, and vice
Yep.
versa on the left. That's your
Yeah.
tell.
No, absolutely. And there's little things like that we don't think of. And, I never thought of it that way. But I learned something just kind of listening to him. Yeah. The other thing Will do is he does a nice job Wednesdays with the members up in the Cowboys club, and he'll do an hour deal with just the members going over the game tape and explaining to them why things happened. And it's just your normal fans going in there and listening, but it's very instructional. I've been able
Yeah.
to hear a couple of them, and it's really, really good when he starts diagramming things on the board.
Oh, this is where I need to get my US visa so I can actually attend one of those. I'm not joking, Mickey. I'm actually waiting
Just make
next.
sure you get one that's good and they don't kick you out of here. Okay.
Well, I find that I actually find out next month if I do get accepted for my green card. So next month.
Okay.
So
Well, good.
yep. So
But here's another interesting fact that you can try and wind Will McClay up with. He told us this. He's actually a full-on flamingo dancer.
No way.
Yeah, ask him. And he'll be
Okay.
like, where have you heard that from? And tell him you heard it from the UK guys. And he'll go, aha.
Okay.
because we had him on was it the draft show 2 years ago,
Yeah,
Mike? Yeah.
last year. And I said, give me
Okay.
an interesting fact nobody in Frisco will know. And he went, Okay, I'm like a full on flamingo dancer. It was like, no.
And we were just like, giving it the eyebrows going up like that. Really?
Yeah. Now we can
Oh,
con him. Now we can con him every time we see him. Right. If you don't, we're going
Well,
to let out your
I'm
secret,
gonna
mate.
accuse him of doing it because he gets to dance with one of those flamingo dancing girls that have those neat costumes on, right?
oh
That's it.
man.
Yeah.
Well,
Twirly swirly.
let's right, okay. So kind of the last things we're going to talk about. So obviously we've got the schedule coming out
Yeah.
later on in the year, but we know who we're playing against this year. But give me your thoughts on the opposition that we have are going against this year, and how do you think the schedule? What do you think of what potentially how the schedule works out?
Yeah, it's not going to be easy.
Mm,
Yeah.
Because when you end up playing, well, right now the NFC East, with
Very
Washington
hard.
improving, Philadelphia,
Hmm.
defending Super Bowl champs.
Super Bowl.
There's 4 games right there that aren't
Hmm.
very easy. They've got to play. Oh, what did I do with my schedule so I remember the whole thing? They're playing the NFC
North, I believe. Is it not?
North. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what? Three teams were in the playoffs last year, right? From the North?
I'll,
Detroit,
I'll
Minnesota, and Green Bay?
I
Let
will
me try
tell
and get
you.
the schedule.
Yeah, I'll get the schedule right now for you.
Oh, I've got the 2024 schedule. That's no good.
Oh, Mike. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
That's no
yeah,
good.
at home we've got the Giants, Eagles, Commanders, Packers, Chiefs, Chargers, Vikings, and Cardinals at home. All those are really tough home games.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
for on the road, we've got Giants, Eagles, Commanders, Chicago Bears, Denver Broncos, Detroit Lions, Las Vegas Raiders, New York Jets, and the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, it's not an easy schedule by
No.
any means.
And so, and they've got the third place schedule. So, but
Yeah.
when you get um, the NFC North and the AFC
Is that the South?
South. I'm
Oh,
trying.
the one for the Raiders and
Oh, it would have
Chiefs.
been the AFC West,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Yeah,
South.
yeah.
Oh no,
And you got
wait.
to play the Chiefs,
Technically,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, we've got the Chiefs at
Yes,
home. Yeah,
and the Chiefs.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, and the Chargers, they were decent. Denver was a playoff team, right? They made the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So you've got
Everybody wrote them off. Everybody wrote Denver
you've
off.
got almost like 9 games against playoff teams from last year. So again, yeah, it's not easy. Um, and the home, it'll be interesting to see the home and away thing the
Yeah.
order of the games,
Oh, I
uh,
see. Right.
how
Okay.
they space out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because the
well,
only reason it's not as tough as it seems is they're playing a couple of the teams that had the worst records
yeah,
uh,
Yeah.
in the league, so that
yeah,
evened out a little bit. But they
yeah,
were so bad, 3 of them kind of wiped out how difficult the rest of the schedule is.
yeah, definitely.
If you
Well,
include the Giants,
yeah,
Carolina,
yep,
Yeah. So
uh,
you're okay with them, and you?
and the Bears, that kind of wiped out how tough the schedule is.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just, for like some me and Mike though. I think we're very curious to know what the Thanksgiving game is going to be because because
Nah.
I don't know if we told you yet, Mickey. Me and Mike and the big group of UT Cowboys fans are coming back over for Dallas.
Oh, very good for
Yep,
Thanksgiving.
for Thanksgiving. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
And
I've got at least 20 people signed up.
really, very
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So
Bringing them
big
all
massive.
over.
Yep.
Bring them all over to the Star.
Yeah, I was certainly
Yeah.
will.
Well, we're doing the tour. When
Oh,
we're
you
going to do it,
will.
I'll
Okay.
message you. Yeah. No, we're booked. It's all there.
Yep.
The
So, but
stadium tour, Frisco tour. But when we come to Frisco, I'll message you because we'll have to bring you a
Well,
gift. We need to bring
make
you
sure you get
some
in
nice.
touch with the guys that do the Star Sports Travel, and come to
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
Wednesday afternoon meeting with the people on the tour. And Everson Walls and I talk for like a half hour or so, And then
Nice.
I bet they will give you, or I'll make them give you a deal on the autographs if you're interested in that.
Well,
Oh man.
But you
we've
guys
got
are
to
professionals.
definitely
You don't need autographs.
just yours, Mickey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
But I mean,
right.
we will come and find you in Frisco
Oh
because
yeah,
I
definitely.
think
See, you guys could get
we'll bring you a
lucky
nice bottle of scotch.
if they played a home game on the Sunday before Thanksgiving, but they're always on the road.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what
we're
that's what
planning
we're banking on because we fly in on the Saturday the week before
before.
Right.
Thanksgiving.
Well,
So
maybe you can get to a road game.
Yeah,
Lately,
possibly.
they've been close. I mean, closer, because too many times that Sunday game before Thanksgiving's been on the
Oh, I'm
road,
with you.
like in New
Mm,
York at night or on the West Coast, and it's like,
yeah,
okay,
it's a
they
haul.
shouldn't be punished for hosting Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
but sometimes it seemed like they were.
yeah,
yeah.
I
I mean,
totally agree with you.
we'll either come and find you in Frisco or at the game. I'll
Yes,
message you as usual,
absolutely.
and we come and find
We'll
you.
we'll make that work
We'll
for
bring you a
sure.
nice gift,
But I
some
got a
British
feeling
gift.
we'll probably talk before then.
Oh yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, definitely. You know it, Mickey.
So we've got one final question.
Okay.
I'm going to leave this one over to Mike. So we do a segment on this show called "Would You Rather." So it's just
Mm.
kind of like either option A or option B. What would you prefer? So Mike, hit me with it with this week's "Would You Rather."
All
All
right,
right,
very, very
Mike. Be
simple.
nice now.
It's a nice one. It's a safe one. All right. I do get quite long winded with some of them, but not this one. So, would you rather Aston Genty at pick 12 or a Marion Hampton at pick 44?
Ooh.
If you can assure me that I can get Hampton or Judkins at 44,
I can't.
then
I'm assuring you, Hampton is available at
at
44.
12, can I get Jade Barron, the cornerback?
Oh, the Jade Barron. Yeah. So Jordan Lewis's replacement. You want him
Yeah,
at 12? Do you?
or you play outside for me after the way I saw him on his pro day.
He's short,
Or
and the length is a bit low for.
5'11". Okay, it's not like he's 5'9" or anything like that.
Yeah,
But they need another outside corner.
I
They
think
need
so.
a
Will Johnson from Michigan
can
is my guy.
yeah.
See in the
Can I
first.
can I can I get one of those wide receivers?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
you can give me Golden and Judkins or Hampton or let's go.
Yeah,
Okay. So your would you rather is you want Hampton at 44 then?
I wouldn't mind the running back at 44 because I'm not
I
sure.
second that.
I'm not sure the depth of the cornerback or wide receiver position because I think a
Agree.
lot of those wide receivers are going to go early in the first round.
Yeah.
I agree.
And you're talking wide receiver 2 here that the Cowboys need. I already
Yeah,
think the Cowboys have got a bunch of wide receiver 3s and 4s already on the
right.
roster.
And
So
and
you
and
don't
still
want to
I
end
can't.
up getting
Yeah, because
another one.
I can't sit here and tell you that Mingo's going to develop into
Yeah,
the second
yeah.
round pick he was, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't tell you that. I mean,
Talbot is going to rise his
Tolbert.
bar up.
I mean,
Yeah.
he'd be a
Yeah.
great third, right?
I
And
think so
then
too.
with Cavante Turpin to use him as kind of the gimmick guy in there.
The gadget
I
player.
don't think
Yeah.
you want Turpin out there for 50 plays a game, but if I can get him 20 snaps at wide receiver
Mhm.
and increase the speed on the field, that would be good too. But a first round wide receiver that can explode and stretch the field, sign me up for it. Because think about when they didn't have Brandon Cooks and he really wasn't healthy the entire year.
Yeah. Yeah.
It hurt. So
I
hated
tell
to
you
see
what
him
hurt
go,
even more.
but
I,
these guys got money whipped, and the Cowboys couldn't. When you're spending that much on your first receiver, the second one, if you can get on a rookie contract, well, then it's
yeah.
reasonable.
And
yeah,
I tell you what hurts even more is not having a wide receiver 2 like Brandon Cooks go out, but then not having a guy that when CD Lamb goes out, you have So, say for instance, now if CD Lamb
Exactly.
gets injured next year, you say like turf toe, misses a couple of games, concussion, has to miss a week. Who's playing wide receiver one? Tolbert
Well,
with
and
Turpin on the
when
other
he got hurt,
side.
this past year, that's kind of the
Exactly.
situation they were in, right?
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, before we do finish up, I will say, like, I think that obviously I can understand the frustration with Cowboys Nation when it comes to Jonathan Mingo, but you need to remember the situation. Again, I'm using the reference of the Carolina Panthers once again. like, they were in a dire situation. Terrible O line means your quarterback's going to get hit. Wide receivers are not going to get the ball. That's the main reason. So I'm willing to give Mingo that a better opportunity to kind of like really justify, because I think what was he, Mickey? He was a second round draft pick.
I
A couple
believe
of
it
years.
was second from
Second.
Ole
Yeah,
Miss, right? And if you look
that's
at what
right.
he did at Ole Miss, and by the way, he
He
looks
was
the
good.
part. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other
He was
guy that
good at
looks the
Ole
part that
Miss.
they need to have step up is Sam Williams. He looks the part. And he
Mm.
was going to play a big part last year until
He
that
was.
He
injury.
was. We spoke to him, and he was really, really positive. And like he
Yeah.
was speaking about like his kids and his family, and he was like,
Yes.
I'm doing all of this for my family, and he was like, you could see the fire in his belly. You could hear
He's
it.
great. He's very determined, and
Mm.
I think we're going to be meeting up with him when we're in Dallas as well. So
Yeah.
so hopefully with that we can maybe try and do a wee show with him. Hopefully, see what
All right.
happens.
Well, I'm going to count on talking to you guys from training camp for sure. If you want after the
Definitely.
draft anytime, just let me know. Okay.
Sounds fantastic,
Yeah.
and once again, Mickey, we can't not thank you enough for coming on, and honestly, it's always an honor to have you on and catching up as always, and we hope you're doing well, and we can't wait to hear back and get your thoughts after the draft as well. So, but yeah, thanks again, Mickey.
Okay. I appreciate it. And this was fun for me. So anytime. Okay.
Thanks, Mickey.
Beautiful.
Have a
All
good
right,
one.
you
catch you
guys.
again, mate.
Take care.
Take care, man.
And yeah.
See ya.
There we go, Mickey Spagnola, ladies and gentlemen.
The great Mickey Spagnola.
Yes, so what we'll do now, we will start finish up. We'll pay some of the ads, and we'll be back with you in just a little moment. Once I can actually get this working.
It's because of Mickey. Having Mickey on here has moved things all around.
It has a little bit, yeah. So where have I done with this? Actually, I'm actually getting myself a wee bit mixed up here. Actually,
Here you go. You can do it.
where is it? Oh wait, got it. There we go. Here's the advert, folks. Back in a wee one moment.
The World's Team Podcast is brought to you by Cowboys Experience. The ultimate Cowboys experience with stadium tours, meet and greets, tailgating, game tickets, and much more. For more information, please go to www.cowboysexperience.com.
Yeah, be sure to check out cowboysexperience.com. They are our main sponsor, where we are going to the Thanksgiving game this year. Me and Mike, and also among with the massive amount of UK Cowboys fans within our group, we're all going. Hopefully our friends in Germany are going to join us as well as in Spain and some in Italy. We know our friends from CanFan, Cowboys CanFan in Canada might be going there as well. So again, another international takeover. And again, just proves the point. We are the Wolves team. There we go. And also, if you're interested as well, we have merch. we have merch available. We've got hoodies, snapbacks, mugs for your coffee and tea. Be sure to go and check the link in the description. And if you feel like buying some, fantastic. You're supporting the show. So yeah, you can see it right here. Mike's got the t-shirt on. We've both got the hat on, and I've got the hoodie on. So there we go. But yeah, folks. Yeah, Mike, great show with Mickey.
Always good to get Mickey.
Great catching up with him. So I'm really excited to see what happens in this year's draft. And obviously, how many days out are we on now?
Oh, it's not that many. We're less, so a week and
just over 2 weeks, isn't it?
It's like 11 days.
11 days. Oh. Tasty. Yes, folks. So, yes, we will be back next week. Not sure what the plan of next week's show is. We might do our final mock draft per se and do that. But obviously, comes to the draft weekend, we'll be doing like a recap show of maybe day 1 and day 2, just depending when we actually do it. We might actually even do it live. We don't know yet. We haven't decided yet. So, but yeah, folks,
I
we'll
could
be
try and
back
get
here.
some guests. Should we do some live ones after the
Ooh.
show, and I'll get some guests? Because obviously people are aware that we do the live show for all 3 days. Got a whole host of guests.
Just so everyone's aware, the live show me and Mike normally do is on the UK Cowboys fans.
Yeah.
So we might do a live reaction after we've done here, but we might just do a recording. Again, we haven't decided yet, so we'll keep you posted.
It depends
folks.
how tired we are at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, it really depends. So yeah, absolutely. But yeah, folks, before we do though, Mike, please tell where everyone can find you on social media.
You can find me on Twitter at Kenfig Cowboys, Kenfig with a K, Cowboy with a K, and you, Mr. P.
You can find me at IamPeace2 on X and Instagram. Yes, folks, that is the end of this week's episode. Honored to have the great Mickey Spagnola from DallasCowboys.com on this show. Like we said, we are going to have some massive guests when we're in Texas in November. So we're keeping our lips sealed for that one at this moment. But yes, we'll be back next week. And until then, again, it's not just America's team. It is the world's team. We will see you guys next time. Have a good one, folks.
You've been listening to the World's Team Podcast. There's no other team like it in the world. Nothing more electrifying than the Dallas Cowboys. And we're here to prove it. We bring in fan groups from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. We're everywhere, baby. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Instagram at the.worlds.team, on Twitter at _worlds_team, and on YouTube at the World's Team. How about them Cowboys?
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
See you next time.